Guess is better now, right?
Yes, much better.
Awesome. Yeah, I should have muted from beginning. Ade, I was asking, that was an interesting moment, you know.
It happens.
Yeah, it's all good. We appreciate your patience with us and your understanding. And right now, I think we can maximize our time. We are so good to go, I guess. So I'm trying to get my screens together. Yep. All righty. Thank you, everyone, for joining this live stream. Today, we have with us, you shouldn't be a stranger again. You're no longer a stranger. You on a pre-recorded edition and you just killed it. The kind of feedback we've been getting and the views that the video has gathered has been very encouraging for a new channel like ours. And we thank you for joining us today. Welcome everyone to If You Asked Jimmy. We are having a guest today. We have, communicated. How did we advertise? What did we do? Yeah, but we have put the notice out there for a while so that we can engage. This channel is not supposed to be a monologue. It's actually a channel for the development and growth of our community. And we want not just to hear the view of Jimmy himself, but other people. Knowledge is not, no, what is it now? I want to interpret Yoruba to English, that no one has a monopoly of knowledge. I want to say
Yep, yep.
and that's why we are bringing people from time to time. And our first guest on this our maiden live stream edition, yay, is no other than Mr. Ademola Dayo. He is based in the United Kingdom, while I am speaking to us from the United States. Mr. Ade, can I call you that?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Can you please, you would like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Ademola Dayo, and yeah, you're a brother to me, so I don't need much of an introduction, but I am based in the UK, and I've been in the UK for a long while now, and for a few decades, shall I say.
Mm. Few decades. As
A
few
few
as how
decades.
many?
Three, I'll say about roughly 3 decades. And I'm an IT professional, as you know, and I do have interest in a lot of other areas like philosophy, business, and I do some charity work in Africa.
Awesome, awesome. I'm having some little static. I'm experiencing some little static. JK, am I cracking? I can hear static when Mr. Ade was feeding me back. Okay, you can put it in the chats. Yeah, I've closed every other window. So, welcome everyone. Let's dive straight, Mr. Ade, into the matter. In our recent conversation, there's something you mentioned about, the fact that you are not comfortable people using the terminology typical Nigeria. Why so?
Um, that's a good question because and it's a good way to start. We have All right, this is my take on that. I do apologize that it may be a little bit beyond what you expect to get as a response, but it's my own understanding that we've gone through so much as a race
Hmm,
that we've now arrived at a place where we do not value what our history, we don't value our heritage,
hmm,
we value where we are,
hmm,
and we're trying to develop that where we are with no heritage, no history.
hmm.
Well, should I say erased history? Because it's not that we don't have history. We've
Blank,
just managed. Yes,
blank.
we've blanked out our history. We've blanked out our heritage. We're now looking at there was a word you mentioned last week or some other time that was talking. You said that Atli Master. We're now looking at our Atli Master for approval. So
Hmm,
this is why we do a lot of things, and one of them is the question you've asked. That I feel like we are now in a place where we say typical Nigerian or typical African man in a derogatory manner.
And you don't appreciate that. I think that's what
Um,
you're talking about.
we don't appreciate, well,
You
I
don't,
don't appreciate it. Nobody should definitely be expressed, called that. Nobody should be referred to as that. And nobody should be even using that as a phrase.
I
That,
think
oh, I'm a typical, that should be seen in a positive light. That, oh, I'm a typical African man, or I'm a typical African woman. But it's not the case when we're using that phrase. We
right.
use it as a negative remark,
Thank you.
which is wrong.
Yeah, I see your point that it's connotes negative, it has negative connotation. Every time people use
Yes,
that phrase, typical Nigerian, it is to illustrate or accentuate something that is definitely negative. You can know you know what to expect. Thank you very much
yes,
for breaking. And I hope that because this channel is supposed to help us not just to have conversations, but actually to learn, to grow, and to live better in a dynamic and rapidly changing world. So I hope people will not sometimes we do things unconsciously. I just
yes,
hope that
yes,
people will be aware that it is not helping us in any way and no, and we should desist from using that terminology because we need to be a better people. Recently, because you're in diaspora, I'm going to ask you some questions. I did not probe I did not probe you a little bit. I asked you to introduce yourself. Um, okay, let me spend a minute or two to
okay,
dig out more from you concerning that. So, you've been in the UK, you said for a couple of decades, like 3 decades, that's like 30 years.
yes.
My question to you would be, you came to UK or you have any history with UK before you returned, you now came back to UK or some?
Well, I was a teenager when I arrived in the UK, and
I'm driving at, do you have any heritage with UK even before you came as a teenager?
well, my
Tell us
parents
about it.
studied here, so I'm part of the generation that was born here,
You were
and then
born in the UK.
was moved back to Nigeria after my parents finished their studies, along with a lot of my cousins, and then I came back as a teenager by myself and tried to settle and fit into the system, and then start adulthood, my journey of adulthood in the UK. So it's been an interesting one because I keep dabbling. And the fact that I spent a lot of time in Nigeria, I spent my secondary school days in Nigeria. I keep dabbling between Nigeria and UK because most of my friends are in Nigeria and I'm based in the UK. So I try to still maintain that link and go back and forth as much as possible. But when you're a student and there's no internet in those days, you only rely on maybe telephone. I think I called one of my friends so many times. The mom actually starts asking that, does this guy have a job?
Thank you. That's a nice way to drive it home. Because you are in diaspora,
Yeah.
some of the questions might be diaspora centric, but I know that, like
Yes.
what you just told us, that you were born in the UK, you were taken back as a child to Nigeria by your parents, and you came back by yourself as a teenager, and you have been in the UK for like 3 decades. You are an IT professional, and you're someone that's passionate about your Nigeria and Africa,
Yes.
and the place of Africa in our in the global scheme of things.
Space.
So to that extent, I want to ask that because we're going to touch on a lot of areas. Recently, there was a change of government in America where President Donald Trump took over as the new president, and you know, it brought out a lot of presidential orders. One of them
Yes.
affects people who are not documented in America. We know that a lot of Nigerians are in the United Kingdom. So there was a video I saw of a Nigerian who came out and said other communities are rising up to support their people, but Nigeria is yet to see, the Nigerians galvanizing around making sure that our people do not suffer undue hardship, untold
Mm.
hardship. From your perspective, did he say it well, or what do you see of that? What do you say to that? That are people maybe they are known for other things like partying and flexing and showing off, but right to support one another. What's your opinion? Does it happen in the UK as well?
Absolutely, and it's the same thing. It permutates across everywhere we go, even back home, where we may think we are very helpful back home, but we're not. We are only helpful to our immediate relatives or extended relatives. We don't look at strangers and listen to strangers and try to. And there's a trend going on that people actually video themselves feeding the needies in some part of the world, which then beg to ask that, okay, why are you doing that? Why are you actually videoing what you're doing if this is something you automatically do regardless? So a lot of things are done for the likes and the views, as opposed to tapping into the humanity aspect of us. So I feel like it's a good time to call that out. We don't do anything at all supporting one another abroad. We don't do anything at all at home. That's why our society is how it is today. We've lost our core as people. We don't really have a core belief.
Yeah, in one of our conversations, you said that people party hard because they work hard, but they do not do business together. How valid is that they do not do big things together like other people of other places and other cultures abroad?
It's not, it's very valid.
Do you want to
Oh, definitely. I'll expatiate, because culturally we're not like that. We're not the kind of a race where that sits together and plan together and then trust one another to the point where I don't need to see the detail. You don't need to come back to me every day or every week. And you don't need to come and polish my shoe at home. You don't need to wash my car because I've invested in your business. We can just see those are the kind of things, the toxic behavior that a lot of us have acquired over decades, or should I say centuries, of being shifted from pillar to post when it comes to the kind of grounding we should have. Our forefathers were very different. They help one another the way they ought to help one another at the time. Obviously, in those days, that things were much harder. So there are so many schemes. For example, as farmers, I remember I was watching, I can't remember what it's called now in Yoruba land, but a farmer would have a group of farmers, and on one day they will go to one person's farm.
Arrow or where?
Exactly. So one day they'll go to one person's farm, they will help him maybe to plant. The next day they'll go to the next person's farm, because they couldn't afford laborers or people that will actually help them toil the land. That makes it easier for them to do what they need to do very quickly.
Communal living.
Yeah. So we've lost that along the line of being westernized. By the way, we still need to really assess the fact that we are westernized as people, but we're not, well, we were civilized in those days, but we've shifted from being civilized to being westernized now. And that's really harmed us and harmed our relationship with one another. As a community, things are broken down badly. And we see that here. We see that here, that people are raised individually. Right. If I didn't have my Nigerian antecedent or African antecedent, I would be happy to just do whatever I need to do with my family and leave it there. Any other interruption it will be unwanted.
Amazing.
Because that is the system designed here. Amazing. So we can understand why people will be like that, because the system that they've been trained within, the framework they've been given, is definitely of that such.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Ade. I know that you are loaded and you have a lot to dish out to us, but I want to squeeze you and make sure that we get as much as possible out of you in this conversation. What has but a short time? Maybe someday we will do live shows that will extend, but we are using this as the first, as the maiden edition. And that takes me to the point that I know you, and part of the reasons you are our first guest is your passion for Nigeria. Yeah. I know you're totally passionate about Africa and motherland. Now, there are a lot of narratives out there about Nigeria, and even not from other people, but from Nigerians themselves. Some people say they are never going back to that country. Sometimes some people will travel, maybe they will just cross over to abroad, to the abroad,
Yes,
and
yes,
everything they say about Nigeria is negative. We all know the problems of our country,
of course.
but what do you see to the kind of narratives that our people actually propagate? I know they have a right to be angry about how things are at home, but what's your perception? That question is going to be in two parts. People who say they are never going to return back there, and people who say those people in Nigeria, finger pointing and just like blame shaming, or or feeling that superiority complex.
Yeah.
I don't want the question to be too long. Did you get to say
Yeah. So,
the narratives,
mhm.
negative narratives, and whether to go back or not to go back?
So yeah, so which one should I answer first?
As your lordship pleases.
So I think when it comes to whether to go back or not to go back, is an individual thing. And I think we touched on that the first time we spoke. And a lot of people at a situation where they're at the crossroad. They've sold
Mm,
everything they had. The things went from really great to terrible based on the economical situation of the country, and their businesses went down the drain, and they've managed to find a new career, a greener pasture elsewhere, and they've moved themselves and their family. That kind of experience would not he may be saying, okay, I would like to go back eventually, but if he says, okay, I'm not going back, it's a personal choice. And you can't really blame that person because they've experienced a lot. The reason why I have the view I have is because I never had to work in Nigeria full time. I never had to. So I still had that view, that was that lens that's not as tainted as such person. If you're a 40-year-old man that's done a lot of work, been in traffic
mm,
from mainland to VI, you've done that for 10 years. I've not done that. I've not experienced that. So I don't have any. I've not been on Third Milan Bridge for more than 30 minutes in my entire trip
wow,
back and forth.
I see.
So I wouldn't be able to judge that person. But personally, from my own perspective, I still feel going back home is the only way for us to develop home. The only way we can then start enlightening people at home. There's a recent thing that people are now picking on, the process of this Oba, the King Alafin, that was recently appointed, and people now started insinuating that the Ifa usually picked from abroad, which is interesting. But again, if we had to look at it from a point of view, if someone that's left Nigeria, let's use myself as an example. If I am to be compared or to be assessed, let's use the word assessed. If I'm to be assessed with someone that has spent all their career, the same job, the same journey in Nigeria, who
Right.
would you think have encountered danger, hardship, uh, all sort of trials? Obviously, the person in Nigeria will have experienced more of that. But at the same time, the person in Nigeria, because it's an harsh environment, is likely to have caused their driver, abused their driver, maltreated their driver, maltreated their house help, because that's the environment. If you're too soft, you get, well, the loudest gets is the only one that gets hard, as they say. So when you assess people and you assess them based on their merit, based on their personality, it's likely you will actually vote for the one that the society has conditioned to be a better person,
Wow.
even
Wow.
though even though they are of the same character, but the society has influenced and conditioned someone to
So
actually
you
do
don't.
better. So I may have that tendency, but there's nowhere here. Even if I have a driver in the United Kingdom, if I slap the driver, I may end up in I may end up in, having rice and toast for a
That's true.
while.
That's true. That's true. So you don't have anything against people who want to return to Nigeria, and you don't appreciate people talking down on Nigeria. It's just the experiences, individual experiences, right? So that takes me,
Absolutely.
you went to the aspect of, of Alafin or something. I really
Yes.
actually want us to go a little into the traditional institutions. Um, in a way, this is not a Yoruba program. We have a Yoruba channel,
Yes.
but we can only have conversations from the known to the unknown.
Of
Like,
course.
okay, we something that is relatable. But
Yes.
before we go into all of that, um, in one of my conversations with you, you said that slave trade and colonization, like they are two sides of the same coin to you, or what do you want to expatiate on that? Because we
Yeah.
thought that slave trade was an era, then they now colonize. But to you, you have a different, you have a very unique perspective. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. If we look at the results of if we compare the result of slave trade and the colonial era, we will reach the same conclusion that it was an economic way of making sure we do the West African produce wherever the West demand or
Mm,
wanted, whether that's through hard labor or some manipulation. Simple as that. Slave trade was more forceful, and it was a lot more humane, and the same results. They're doing the same thing, forcing people to actually deliver what they want from those people. Colonization, manipulating people to deliver what they want for their own good, to do their biddings, and then brought back the wealth to the West. We from West Africa, the Francophobic region, we don't really have such a harsh view of that because the British had a good way of making sure they manipulate you. They came with education, came with religion. Within the religion, they basically added a lot of interesting concept that made us comfortable with what they wanted to us to achieve and what they wanted to achieve from delivering us from whatever evil there was that was
yeah,
in our land at the time.
that is that is so interesting. You drew an analogy of a pet that
Yes,
you want to share that with us?
absolutely. So the way I see it is, um, if I have a pet, if I actually I don't have a pet,
Okay.
I just have a garden, and I
Okay.
set a trap in my garden, and my trap caught a wild animal. Never, nothing to do with me. It's just something I wanted a wild animal, and I caught a wild animal. Started feeding the wild animal in a confined space, and then I started giving the wild animal more room to move around in my garden. Eventually, when I set the animal free, after a long period of time, the animal will not obviously want to go into the wild and source food himself when he knows I will give him food regularly every day or twice a day. Same thing goes for if I go into the woods. We don't have thick forest here. The best we have in the city I'm in is woods. I go into the woods, I start putting banana and all sorts of things at the spot. I'm
Hmm.
likely to find an animal or to find an animal eating those things after a while. The animal keep coming back. The animal realizes I was the one putting it there. I get closer to the animal, and the same thing will happen. Whatever I would like the animal to do later, whether I want them to perform in circus or whatever, I can use that animal to do so. The same thing with the animal I have in my garden. I could make the two animals different places, different perspectives, different circumstances to do my bidding because I've created the trust and I've then become um, their lunch or dinner ticket.
Are you
So
saying this is what the colonialists did to us and the slave drivers? Is that
that's
where
exactly
where
so
the way we are today? We're already like a Stockholm syndrome. We're already used to our oppressors.
exactly. So I feel like being in the wild, us thinking that, oh, actually, we're free. We fought for our freedom. We didn't actually fight for that independence that we claim we fought for. We were released. We were left. These Western countries realized that they couldn't hold on to all the colony they had because of the war that's affected the country. So they had to let go of a lot of administrative burdens.
You said we were released. Were we released totally, or were released with strings attached?
Well, there's a lot of strings attached. We were actually puppets. We were released, but you know when you have this performance and you have this puppet that you're controlling with, I think that's pretty much the best way to describe how our release. That we had people that were actually controlling our arms and legs and heads and doing all sorts of things. I mean, if you look at our financial situation, IMF is there to monitor and stipulate what needs to happen with various economy on the continent. Whereas they're a lot softer. And when they give loan and things like that, the terms and conditions is very different to when loans are given to other countries or Western countries. That's just a typical example. And more, if we go to Francophobic regions, we will see how various abuses happened. Some central banks do not even exist in their country, exist in France.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, so
I know you are ready for me today. And when you sip water, I feel intimidated because it looks like, yeah, I am ready for you. I'm going to give it to you. All right. So let's talk about Nigeria. And, you know, without missing words, things are really tough for people back home.
yes.
And when people at home think things are tough for them, things are tough for people in diaspora as well, in a way.
Yes.
Why? There are different segments of diasporans. There are people who have found their feet. There are people who are trying to find their feet, and there are people who are just floating.
Yes.
And for many of us, it's like being exiled. You know, someone said that JAPA does not mean, what did it? I like that illustration. It does not mean escape. It means fleeing. That's what somebody
Yes.
said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's true.
yeah, that leads me to the
Yeah.
question. But because some people, their body is in the abroad, but their heart and mind is at home, especially for the middle age and the older people.
Yeah.
So some people is like they are in a better place. But to a lot of people who have their roots 10, 20, 30, 40 years or 50 of their life, some people even travel in their 50s. My question is this. My question is this. There are people thinking of Japan as we are talking now because Nigeria is really, really tough for most people.
Yes.
It's not what we see on social media.
No.
What would you say to someone thinking of Japan right now? To Japa or not to Japa?
I would say definitely to JAPA because I might
For real.
me personally,
But I thought you were passionate about Nigeria
I'm
and you
passionate about Nigeria. I'm passionate about well, in Nigeria, if the question is asked about someone in Nigeria, I'll say yes, definitely to JAPA. But if you ask me other parts of the continent, whether East Africa or South Africa, I may have a different view because the economic situation is different. There's a lot of insecurity, a lot of various challenges facing Nigeria right now that I am not even ready to settle myself in Nigeria full time. So I
is
wouldn't advise anyone to
sorry,
do the same.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Is it not risky knowing that abroad of before is not abroad of now? And to say Japa, while a lot of people are stranded, and a lot of people, like I said, floating. And look at what happened recently. A lot of people are getting deported in America.
Yeah.
COS saga in UK.
Yes. Yes.
I won't say whether the jokes are not there. I don't live in UK. Do you want to review what you said, or
Oh, I would
because
definitely.
that might be
Mhm.
not everybody does their research well before japping. I'm giving you another chance to
No.
situate it. I don't want
Mhm.
to, yeah, to situate it because I don't mind people japping, but
Mhm.
all right, your response.
Okay, I'll say Japan, yes. At this, in Nigeria today, yes, I would say yes, do so, especially if you're a young person, versatile, especially if you're a young person, versatile, and ready to put in the hard graft. Yes, definitely. If you're in your 40s or 50s, then I'll say, yeah, you need to review your options. you've got yourself into a position where you've almost done, you're almost through with your professional career. You're at least midway through in your professional career. If you're prepared to put in the graft, then you can consider that. But if you're considering that, as I said when we had the conversation before, that you don't, number one, do not sell your asset to do so, because you may have reasons to come back early. I've seen a lot of videos of people that actually regretted moving and they're planning to go back, and a lot of relationship break because people are used to a certain system. They come abroad and they have to work. Husband and wife don't see each other. They don't know what to do with their children. The children, if you're in the UK, if you're not up to a certain age, you can't be left by yourself. So they have to have nanny. They have to have all these things that they're not used to, or not even nanny. They have to actually find a nursery to put the child, or find activity where the child could be looked after when they've gone to work. So there's a lot of that pressure on parents, on people that just moved over, and especially if you have a nice executive job. Some people have an executive job in Nigeria, and then they move and they just couldn't secure anything remotely close to where they're coming from. That is on its own is a frustrating situation to be in. So again, for such people, I would say you need to review your options. But for young ones, I would say I look at myself and think, well, it wasn't this bad. Nigeria wasn't this bad when I left.
All right. Okay. I want to still ask additional, like riders or follow up to that question.
Yeah.
You say people who are younger, in their younger years, if they have the opportunity, if they want to, they could JAPA.
Yes.
Are there some guardrails? Are there some proviso? Are there some clauses that you might want, or tips, or things that you would love to see in place? Because sometimes, like in the past, people heard, like, okay, they don't even need to be told. They wanted to JAPA and they JAPA'd.
Yes.
But probably they did not do their homework very well, because we saw somebody came on social media recently. Is it came or come? You manage my English like that. Sometimes English can be bitter, or Igbo can be bitter lemon. You know, and the person was crying on social media. She's not the first. We see a lot of people who only get to see the way things truly are, the true picture of things, only when they have landed. Are there tips or clauses or guardrails or whatever that, okay, you are not, or is it just a blanket thing that if you want to JAPA, just JAPA?
Well, no, you're right. It's not a blanket thing because it depends on what you're coming to do. If you're coming to, sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, yes. I said it's not a blanket thing because again, people are in different situations. If you've completed your degree, hello.
I am with you, Ade.
Oh, you're still here.
I was frozen. Yeah.
Your video is
it's
better now.
Sometimes
it's better now.
On me, yeah.
Okay.
Talking
so as you asked,
video. Keep on
video. Yeah. Okay. It's not a blanket thing because again, but I'm assuming at a if you're a teenager, you're already in view of progressing, furthering your education, and you already have a plan, or you already have admission from somewhere abroad that you like to further your education. If that's the option, if that's the route you want to take, then yeah, it's a good route. But as you said, a lot of research is required. You need to do extensive research, not just a little research. When I was coming, obviously, thankfully, my parents already studied here, and they went back to Nigeria when Nigeria was much in a better place. And but still, when I was coming, I already did a lot of research. And in those days, there's no internet, nothing. I had paper cut, like newspaper. I had cut out newspapers,
even way
job advert back in those days. So when that come, obviously that was in business of cars. So whenever he import cars into Nigeria, whenever he gets a car in and he has any newspapers, I'll get all the newspapers, look at the job section, cut out the job sections,
Really?
and pile them together.
How
So
long
when
ago
I
was
get
this?
long time ago, late 90s.
Ooh.
So, and I piled all the newspaper, all the job. And then when I got here, I started going to these places, and some obviously was the
So you were
months later.
prepared. You were
So I
prepared.
was, this was
So
before social media. So you could see now that we have social media, we have internet, we should be able to do a lot more extensive research. You should know what you're doing. You should know the kind of job, job prospect that
yeah,
you have once you're finished. You should know that, or you should know the kind of career you want after that. You should have a view of how you want to plan your life. I have, well, obviously that theory and reality is always different.
fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, sometimes the network is freezing up on me, but from the back end, I understand that it's not, I mean, the stream is cool. Then
Okay.
I needed to grab, my water bottle.
Okay.
So that's when you saw me going off. So apologies for that. When you've been speaking for a while,
Yes.
sometimes you just want to make sure that thank you very much for those feedbacks because it's important because I have something on my channel where I said that plan well before you JAPA. I have not
Yes.
said anywhere that people should not JAPA.
Mm-hmm.
Circumstances differ. And when
Yes.
we say JAPA, it's not everybody who picks their bags and jump on the plane that is JAPAing. Some people, they have relatives that filed for them. Some people, they
Yes.
have they are couples. They have someone that has, maybe family petition for them or wife or husband. And there are people who have the skill set to relocate to other places and they'll be in a good place. But why I was making sure that we just situate it very well. I know that you are a very, very thorough and a
Mm-hmm.
very meticulous person as well. And I'm glad that even those days that Nigeria wasn't that tough, you
Yeah.
did your
Yeah.
homework, even though you're a British born citizen, you're a
Yeah. Yeah.
British,
Yeah.
British
Mm-hmm.
born citizen.
British citizen. Do you want to
You
purge you?
people want to go to Rechi. Even though you are a British born citizen, that's that why we go viral now. You still took your time. You had the support system and
Yeah.
everything, and your dad has been there for you. You had the house because so my question is this. And here I was trying to make sure that it is not to discourage people. It's just to make sure that everybody knows that circumstances are different.
Yes.
Yeah. Do I need to go back to sleep or I need coffee? Their
No, let's just carry on.
circumstances
Circumstances differ.
are different. Yeah. Is it me that is speaking English like this?
This will be worth shorting in
Ooh.
YouTube on YouTube.
Circumstances are different. Okay. All of them know that circumstances differ.
Yeah.
And you know that there are a lot of people in Europe today, especially your Europe, that came
Yes.
through the back side. They went through Libya and some other routes of North
Mm-hmm.
Africa to
Yeah.
get to Spain and some other destinations in Europe, and they are doing well today. But such people, I'm not sure if they will be comfortable advising people who want to take that route now because the way it was then is not the way it is now. Even then, it was tough, and some people didn't even make it. Not to
Mm.
talk of now, and the kind of latitude they had when they got to Europe, the way they were absorbed into the
Yes.
system, even though it wasn't still a piece of cake or on a
Mm-hmm.
platter of gold. So that is one thing. Another thing is that the country wasn't that bad and the pressure wasn't that much.
Yes.
And we didn't have the kind of pressure of the population of people that want to exit at that time.
Yes.
And the size of UK, for example, is just like a small state in Nigeria, and the
Mm-hmm.
population is just a fraction of ours.
Of
And what
course.
are the people's destinations? You see what happened to the people going to Oman, to Qatar, Qatar,
Mm-hmm.
and other
Mm.
countries. We've seen a lot of abuses and all the rest. So that people don't get the idea that the moment they take a flight, that on the other end, that's why I have that video. Viewers can check it. Abroad is not automatic success. I didn't say it's not success, but it is not automatic. So you need
Yes.
to do your homework. Very important. That takes me to, back to you mentioned something about the traditional institution the other time.
Yeah.
let's get in there a little bit.
Okay.
Like recently, the way we have young people, we think we have young people as KBACs or whatever, as the kings, like the Oni, the newly
Yes.
appointed Alafi, and a lot of kings like in Yoruba land. But when we think they are young, some of their fathers were young of younger age when they ascended to the throne. And recently, it looks like people are joking about it that even it looks like it is abroadians,
Yes.
diasporans
Mm-hmm.
that are, because when you look around, Oba
Mm-hmm.
Gandhi, he was from
Yeah.
America, he lived in America most of his life. The current Oni lived abroad. The current Alafin appointed lived abroad. Oluwo of Iwo, which some people don't even want to hear his name on the Yoruba traditional thing, is, are you getting me? And some people are saying
Yes.
that they don't
Yes.
know whether they will be the next king. Now, look at the respect that that tool attracts. And I
Mm-hmm.
think from my conversations with you, you have very strong opinions about a lot of desecration and some other things going on and the disrespect to that throne. What's your view on the traditional tools and the institutions and our kings currently as it stands? We are going from Yoruba land because it's from the known to the unknown. I can't talk about emirs now. I can't talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
Zas. I can't talk
Mm-hmm.
about Ezes or Igwes in Igbo land because I may not have enough information. But
Yeah.
let's just use that as, what would we call it now? For example,
Mm-hmm.
on the Yoruba side.
Um, I don't have a. I do not have. I quite well. Let me put it this way. I don't have anything against any of the Obas. They're great. In my view, they're great. Oni of Ife has done a lot of wonderful things. I'm happy that we're now realizing that young people are actually more agile. They've got the energy to push things forward. And they've got the experience. It may not be as much as the older ones, but they've got the experience to profile development in their areas. And I'm sure Oni's done a lot of is still engaging in projects around Ilefe, but based on the fact that I'm from Ijebu, I don't get to hear or see much of that. The only thing we see is what we see on social media. The only thing I object to and the only areas I have reservation is the selection process, where a lot of money is exchanging hands. People
Mm,
are actually talking about how they were given a lot of money to
mm,
actually influence who they pick.
actually,
This is again the same thing happening in every sector, every part of our society
social fabrics.
today, that we just worship money over anything else. I never thought in my lifetime that I was hear that, because I feel like the stool of Alafin, the most revered Oba in Yoruba land, could never be compromised. But in my own lifetime, I'm looking at it and I'm hearing all sorts of voice notes saying, "Yeah, we are giving so much." This older men, the Oyomesis, now are complaining that this person gave us little, and that's why we are actually going to voice out. I
Mm,
never thought I would hear such a thing, but here we are today. And thankfully, we had a governor that was able to put things right. But again,
I was able to see through the charade.
yes, but again, the most surprising incident that I've ever had, or the most shocking aspect of all that, is even when we've got the most respectable diviner, it's not just a diviner.
Mm,
He is known, not just in Nigeria, he's known across the
globally.
continent in that space. And he was tasked to actually appoint someone and go through divination process, which is
Mm,
our own process of assessing the nominees. So he went through that, he picked the right person, and some people still have objection and still saying, well, so that tells me that this man is held so many different positions, and there's been no scandal associated to him. On top of all of that, we're still making up different stories about, oh, this should have happened, this didn't happen, so this man is definitely corrupt, with no record of corruption. So that shows that the society has got to a point where they just don't believe, even if you have 1 out of 100 that is innocent.
Are you saying that the narrative out there that the IFA process might be compromised? Are you saying that there might be some substance to it?
No, I'm saying it's absolute rubbish. I'm saying there's no substance to it whatsoever. Professor Wande Akintoye.
Abimbola.
Wande Abimbola, rather. So Professor Wande Abimbola is one of the most respectable Ifa diviner.
Yeah.
Not just known in Nigeria, he's known in Brazil, he's known all over US. I mean, he's based in the US.
Globally.
So if we can question him, that means there's nobody in any position in Nigeria today that we cannot question, whether they're doing right and they're being righteous about what they're doing or not. That just shows the kind of characters we have in our society today.
Okay, that's what you mean. That's what you mean.
Yes.
That is what you mean. I'm just being careful that we do not tune on the intent. And I know you are very cautious and you are very, I respect your civility. You're very cautious about, yes, I don't know which word to use, but I really respect you in conversations. And this video, I know it's definitely going viral, and we don't want to impugn on anybody. But I see where you're coming from, that you're just, what you're saying is in order. So, yeah.
So again, it just shows where we are in society, that we don't trust one another. Yeah, Karen.
That is so true. That is so true. I have a question, a rider to that. The rider is this, that you have very strong views on what happened when the former president disrespected the Oriades in Yoruba land by commanding them to Edide Ejoko. You are so infuriated by it in my private conversations with you. What do you want to say about that?
I can confidently say nobody can tell me to Dide and Joko in public in such a manner. Even if he's giving me my next meal, I will gladly pass the meal and make my way home.
Out of personal dignity.
Yes. But unfortunately, we saw none of that when that happened, which tells us that our Oriade themselves, the dignity is diminishing slowly. Whether it's ex-president or not, nobody should be in a position to order our Obas to Dide and Joko in that manner. But unfortunately, that happened and there was no consequence. Nothing happened. I don't think the ex-president apologized, and the various kings defended it.
How did we get there?
I think, again, that's a very tough one, because even I've seen debate between different obas in the past, and they always reference the salary bracket, the salary bracket by the colony, the colonial master in those days, as a reference to their seniority, which is ridiculous. That just shows that what the obas are saying is, I'm senior to you based on how the colony or the colonial master have viewed me, which was complete nonsense, because the way they were viewed were only based on how troublesome they were. So if I feel like Alaafin is more troublesome than another Oba, then I want Alaafin more money to just keep Alaafin on side. That was how the colonial masters, that's how they apportioned their salary in those days. They didn't look at Yoruba history, look at our the way Yoruba was made up, and decided that, okay, this Oba is more relevant.
Let me help you with that, because yes, they came to do divide and rule. So not that they don't know. Some of the time they just use it as a tool to undermine. And yeah, that leads me to the next question. You have said that Oni is doing well, is doing projects and and other things. On the whole of it, can you see the damage that even, I don't know what to say, whether social media, because we have private people, we have public people. Now, the private life of public people is what I want to say now.
Yes.
When you look at the previous Alafi, see the scandals that some of the latter day young generation has brought to the image of the Oyo Empire. Not, two things here. The throne is separate from the occupant of the throne.
Yes.
At least that occupant attracted negative publicity for that throne through his what he did and what he didn't do. Actions and inactions.
Yes.
And you cannot tell the public not to have their perception despite respect to the throne. That is number one. Don't forget that this is one of the most intelligent kings Yoruba have ever had or will ever have. If you listen to the coherence, the wisdom, the political sagacity of Obalafi, the late one that died, he's one of the greatest Yoruba ever. He has courage, he has boldness, and he understands what the issues were.
Yes.
I think that the people like Portable Zazu and the girl that Kabesi married lately, that is number one. Number two is all the negative publicity that the previous Olori, who had some, issues about gifting, people are not gifting, and the stampede thing happened recently. And your radical view about, there was a word you used recently in one of our interviews when you said that the Oni solved the problem of the initial fallacy, whatever, by diversifying. I thought they used the word polygamy. You said it diversified, and I can't even recover from that word. So all this negative publicity of social media, is it that these traditional rulers should manage it better, because it's not about them as individuals. It's about us as a people. Are you getting me?
Yes.
And the respect to you see people coming online and talking to our kings anyhow. Sometimes look at the Oluwo, for example. So I want you to take this together, touch the Alafis area, and look at the kind of mess that we are getting from those social media thing, from their inside private lives. Look at the Oni also. It was a lot of drama, right from the queen, from the Edo. That one was not even as much as the Olori Naomi. And then before he now diversified, like you said, look at what the Oluwo is doing in the social space. How do you now want people to respect the throne?
Okay, we will need to. This is going to be interactive session on this subject, because there's a lot to break down. Number one, Oluwo is not a king in my eyes. He's an emir. He's not a king. And I'm glad he's not from Ijebu region.
Who said?
Well, in my eyes, I don't refer to him as a king anymore. A person that's done everything in contrary to his position.
Is it because he said he's an emperor or emir with his own mouth? Is that why?
No, he's done so many things. I mean, there's no one thing as a war taboo for a king that Olu was not gone against. There's no one thing. So if a king has done the opposite of what he's meant to be doing, then how can you refer to him as a king?
Maybe they would have Shigba for him in the past, if it was in the olden days. Maybe they would have Shigba.
Shigba Tafu now.
Continue, sorry.
Yeah, so unfortunately, for the people of Iwo, I follow a few of them that are still very bitterly annoyed and always against him.
Are you saying that Iwo people enter? Don't let me go that way. Iwo people, forgive me that. Probably Oluwo has taken Iwo to one chance, not the people, because it's about him, not the people.
Yes, I will say that.
Mo bọ̀wọ̀ fún gbogbo èèyàn tó wá láti Ìwó, gbogbo ọmọ Ìwó lódò ọba. Please, not to impugn on you, we are talking about the Kabiyesi who might be representing or misrepresenting you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I think yeah, as you said, the Oluwo, or should we call him Emperor?
Or Emma,
Emir Rashid, because I don't see him as a king anymore based on his actions.
is that Kabiyesi playing to the gallery? Do you see any? Can you see through, or it's just that's his character? Because people talk about his personality, whatever he had. Some people sometimes social media they just come to social media to disparage people, and they don't have the facts. But
Yes,
his lifestyle and everything,
based on his the interview from his
antecedents.
ex-wife, I think it's 50-50. He
Okay,
plays to the gallery of, okay, I want to, the word packaging in
okay.
Nigeria today. I'm packaging
He's,
myself.
he's, he's not such a small. He's not a boy. He's a man. He's a grown backside man.
Yeah.
But do you think is it exuberance?
Well, I don't know what to call it. It could be
Okay,
lack
well,
of, yeah.
okay, finish your thoughts.
Yeah.
Is it exuberance or whatever?
I don't think so. I don't think, I mean, as a grown man, you couldn't possibly be suffering from youthful exuberance at that age.
So it's not the subject matter, but I mentioned the laughing, I mentioned all the negative publicity and the only. I want you to touch on those areas.
I don't think a lot of on me. I don't think there was much negative media around them. I think this is all drama that is expected when you have a king, a very powerful king, that decides to have a lot of young women around him. This is bound to happen, especially. I mean, you don't expect the king to bound and guard them to not do. But the only issue I find with that is they didn't really do a due diligence before they picked the ladies that were in the palace, the Oloris. I don't think enough due diligence were done because that Alaafin's position is a very important one and it should be viewed as such. But apart from that, he
I
had a
have
lot of
a
women in the
question on
palace.
that, Mr. Ade.
Yes.
See, you have a proverb, Amúnibúni ẹran ìbíyẹ.
Mm-hmm.
Ìbíyẹ fọ́jú ọ̀tún, ẹran ẹ̀ fọ́jú òsì. Yorùbá, in case I miss this thing,
I get it.
now, Shemo, somebody pay, perception is everything, right?
Of course.
If you are respecting people, you have a view of them, there's a perception. We are not talking about private lives of private people. Yes. We're talking about private lives of public people. Remember something happened to Dangote way back.
Yeah.
Are you still seeing it in the press? There are people, image management is very, very huge, especially these people are not private individuals. They are not representing their streets. They are representing Yoruba land globally. Yeah. Are you getting me?
I understand.
Whatever, one lady, this lady, that lady, all those American scandals, the nudes, the photos of the big man Dangote.
Yeah.
You can't even see those things on social media. That is image management. That is perception management, because he managed that very well. And all his handlers, they did that because they know that they should not give traction. They should not allow that thing to have mileage.
Of course.
And the thing came up and people were free to form their opinions. But why will our kings be so comfortable? They are not scandalous, but when scandalous things we're not expecting perfection from them.
Yeah.
But that we have the baby, which is the grooming school, is the training school, like, to use your word, one of your words. It's where what do you make of that? See what this portable guy alone did. Do you know what happened? First, he felt like, he had a bragging right that he was eating the same apple or whatever that the Kabiyesi ate, and he was saying, instead of dealing with that lady as an individual.
Yes.
Anyway, as I have an opinion as a Yoruba person, I'm not from Oyo, but I have a relationship. We are Yorubas.
Of course, yes.
I know that it's later that everybody became Yorubas, but we are speaking a common language. So we have a common paternity, we have a common heritage, we have common ancestry. I know it used to be Ekiti, Ijebu, and all those things. But whether the source of the word Yoruba itself is another thing. Truth is that for whatever is happening there, it's a reflection.
Yeah, it reflects badly on us. Yes. But it's unfortunate what happened with the young lady, the Olori. It was unfortunate. But again, Alaafin is gone. I think before Alaafin lady transitioned, she already ran away from the palace. There was a lot of all that drama going on. I think Baba was just getting to the age that he wanted a bit of. He was a bit too quiet in the palace.
I don't know what to do with you, this guy. Anyway, let's get a little out of that.
Yeah.
Let's get into I don't know how to bring you in because you and I are sitting on two sides of a divide, but you cautioned me that we are not divided, we are not, especially because this channel is actually I do not bring people here to gag them.
Yes, yes.
I bring you to vent to express your opinion in a way that society will benefit from it. We are chatting, but in the midst
Yes,
of the chat, we are calling out social issues, and then
of
we should
course.
also be looking for ways to learn to grow and to live better. For those who
Yes.
do not know, you can go into the channel. I'm very, very focused. There's a mission statement, and that is just the that is the guiding, it is a guiding principle on the channel. So the purpose is not empty conversations, but what can we make out of it? What equity can we make out of the conversations? And that leads me to the aspect of traditional, the Renaissance in Yoruba land, for example. Why I say we are
Yes,
sitting on different sides is that I am a Christian and I'm a minister in the temple, just like
yes,
you'll say, at least in my own right. But we are in a global society and everybody is free to have their opinion.
of course.
Someday I'll bring you to share with us your personal views, but we can go a little into what we are seeing. There's a renaissance now. I don't know if I pronounced that word correctly. I don't think it has English origin, whether it's renaissance or renaissance. There's a reawakening globally,
Yeah,
especially again, I'm taking from Yoruba
of
to
course.
from the known to the unknown, where
Yes.
people realize they are grieved, no, anyway, they're trying to situate things about religion and
Yeah.
spirituality. In the first place, there's a difference between spirituality and religion. But the
Yes.
religion of the invaders, because we cannot deny that, no matter
Of
how
course.
Christian or Muslim we are, we know that these are people that colonized us, these are people that did wickedness and evil to us, these are people that enslaved us. But that's the religion that most people practice right now.
Of course.
Now, looking at this reawakening that is happening, uh, you can take it from there. Where is that taking us? Because are we still not going to end up with almost the same version of what the religion of the invaders did to us because of the narratives out there of the new consciousness of the Yoruba people? Is like an alternative, and people are going back. A lot of people are really going back to their roots. And
Yes.
before, it used to be a thing of shame, like
Yeah.
because everybody wants to be religiously correct, Christian or Muslim, even though they were doing both.
Yes. Yes.
But now
Yes.
people on Jadeton, like
Yes. 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 People
and they
like
are even
us.
saying that this year, I don't know where that thing started from. Faja, where did that thing start from? So, of Faja, they are ready to go to any length right now to affirm their original spirituality. Okay, so
Yes.
being someone that is tending to that has a global worldview about neutrality of religion, if
Yeah.
I represent you, what do you say to the reawakening and renaissance? Sorry, my question was a little bit long.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. It's about time we go back to our roots. As I said earlier, we've lost our core. We've lost our core beliefs. We unfortunately, religion has changed us to have a, an Eurocentric or Middle East centric. There's no such word, but again, it's changed us to being either
Arabian
looking
centric,
towards
Arab.
Arabic centric, looking towards the Middle East or looking towards Europe for savior. So we need to come back to the source. Basically, how can we be now? I don't want to go into. I think we'll have another session because if I start going into certain areas, you will definitely want to defend it.
You can't
But let
convert
me
me.
just be
I'm not
mild.
trying to convert you. You can't convert
I know.
me.
I'm not trying
I
to
know you. That's
exactly.
not. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Please feel free to express your opinion.
So I feel like to start with, if we're to go into our own philosophy as Yoruba people or as Igbo people,
Africans.
no, I'm just even because I don't know of
Okay.
I cannot talk for
Other
Asante.
people.
I
All right.
can't talk for different races, but
You are
as
saying from what
Yorubas,
you know, from
we
what you
can say, and as Nigerian, if we were to say, what's our philosophy? If we look at the West, they are empirical people. They look at evidence, they look at experience, and they review that, and then they base that on how they develop, how they go forward. If you look at China, there's this Confucius, they have this Confucius philosophy. Be ethical about what you're doing, try and be the best version of yourself, and da 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 da. Until today, from the beginning, from their great ancestors, they've managed to continue to live that truth until today. But for us, we had a philosophy. If we are to be asked, just the same way the Greek had Socrates, if we are to be asked today as Yoruba people, that who did we have? I would say we had Orunmila. But a Christian would disagree with me. Most Christians would disagree with me. Most Muslims would disagree with me. But they will not be able to tell me one philosopher that we had that his words still resonate today. They will not be able to tell me. Whereas, if we look at Orunmila and we compare Socrates, we now see that actually these people had mythology before their civilization. We had cosmology. Two different things. They had myths. They talk about Zeus, they talk about Poseidons, they talk about all these myths. We didn't have that. We had cosmology. That we were dealing with reality way before them. So our past.
Cosmology. I'm just kidding. I have a channel. I have a particular series where I interpret. It's just for fun. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. I see that. So and it's good. Please let's keep this going, because my take on this is, if we don't all agree, we don't have a universal starting point. That's okay. This is our starting point. Omoluabi. What does it mean to be an Omoluabi? To be an honorable, outstanding citizen. What are the values that we need to take away? Being that, if from that you can then say, okay, I want to go and be a Christian. I want to go and be a Muslim because this is not enough for me. Fair enough. But we don't even have that anymore. Chinese. This is why I'm using Confucius as an example. They have that until today. Be ethical, work hard, be honorable, da 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 da. You know, in China, if you embezzle more than 50, equivalent of 50 pounds, it's death penalty. Exactly.
Why?
In Japan, I've seen in the news where Minister of Finance was crying because he underperformed.
What of Korea?
Exactly. I mean, these are not, I mean, Japan is quite lenient when it comes to things like that. They don't really have, they're quite liberal. But they are governed by their own spirituality. And that's the foundation, the building block they've had all their life. And we can see the example, and we can see how they're progressing. We dumped everything we know and try to adapt.
Can I help you? Yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Our time is fast spent. As whatever spirituality or whatever they brought to us, has it helped or damaged us? Is it for positive or for negative? Where did it leave us?
It left us confused.
Oh my God.
It left us confused. I'll give an example. We were civilized way before the West.
I agree.
We were civilized way before the West. I can bring out instances. I still joke about this actually, that when United Kingdom, when they didn't, well, before they had plumbing and all of that in the house, I'm talking not too long ago, maybe previous generation. The previous generation still remember when the husband, they'll fill up the tub, the husband will get in the water, have his bath, come out. All the children will go in the bath, come out. The wife will be the last one to take her bath with the same water. We've been going to streams and having our bath in the distance way before all of this. And when was it that United Kingdom actually allowed women to vote? Not long ago. We never had that issue.
Let me interrupt you. You know that song that Fela sang, now songs and they carry shit long time ago
Yeah,
in Yoruba and
exactly.
La Shalanga. Now you understand? Continue.
Oh, to
Long,
be
long,
honest, I
long
never
time
really
ago,
listened to those
long
lyrics.
time ago, long time ago. Africa man,
Oh,
we know they carry shit long time ago with the shit inside big hole. Now you understand?
he's very right. He's very right. And that's exactly what Fela was narrating. Obviously, I never really listened to those lyrics in that sense, but that's exactly it. The voting issue, the women had to protest to vote and all that. We never
We're
had
more
that.
civilized than we had our own civilization. That
Of
of course,
course.
when they even came, they made the Oyo Empire so organized. Our democracy was, in fact, till date, the current version of democracy be cannot be equated to what we had.
And that's why we have the problem we have now. Because in those days, there were action and consequences. That
Mm.
if you mess up, that you know what's going to happen. Even as a king, if you mess up, you
Checks
know
and
the council will hold you
balances,
accountable, and you go into exile.
checks and balances, Oyo Macy's, and all of those
Exactly. But
institutions.
it's a shame that we don't have these things anymore. Even the Oyomesi that are meant to be holding, checking and balancing,
That's
they're the
nonsense.
one, they're the one getting balancing rucksacks of money
I have
in
a
their own
question
pockets.
before I let you go.
Yes.
Yoruba, when they want to joke, there's one man that sang a song earlier in I think the early 80s, Yoruba song. He said, Gbogbo ẹgbẹ́ ẹ̀ ń wọlé sí, ìwọ ṣá máa jà kiri, ìwọ ṣá máa jà kiri. Gbogbo ẹgbẹ́ ẹ̀ ń wọlé sí, ìwọ ṣá máa jà kiri. I don't know whether he's calling him, but one of those Fuji people. Some people will be looking like, this guy go ras small. Oh. Why that Fuji? Sorry, I'm just a victim of being a city boy. I was born in the
That's
city, and
it.
it's not, we don't play it at home, but on the streets, when the barber, I don't know how many of you lived in Lagos, when the barber is playing like 50 meters or 20 meters to your house, they will raise the volume
Increase the
so
volume
high,
so high.
make
Yeah.
everybody so uncomfortable. So I grew up, and so many of those things I can still retain them. So, sympathize with me a little bit. The point is this: what that means is that all your contemporaries, they are doing great things.
Yeah.
They're advancing in every area of human endeavors.
Endeavors.
They're
Yeah.
stepping up. They are the ones that is supplying direction, dominating the space, succeeding.
Yes.
You are just busy gallivanting,
Yes.
rigmaroling, and just you are just wasting yourself. You think you are enjoying, but you are just
Yes.
wasting your life.
Yes.
I don't like people talking down Nigeria, but this is our reality. This is not a talk down. We just want to reflect the reality. We import everything. People say we don't produce, but I know there's some little production going on. But like we consume everything from phone to clothes
Yes.
to
Yeah.
every aspect of our life. Even when people are building houses, they import tiles from Italy. They import their sets. Some of the things you
Yes.
see also we are not a producing nation, as it were, and that's part of
Yes.
what is pushing a lot of us to diaspora, because we are exporting our money, are you getting me, and
Yes.
exporting our labor, and we are not actually exporting so much things of value out there.
Yeah.
So while the world is advancing, where is Nigeria? Where is Nigeria in the global scheme of things? And what is your take on where we are right now? We have AI. We are not leading in any aspect of technology. We have some fintechs, we have some startups, we have brilliant people doing great things everywhere. And Nigerians in America here, our community has the highest number of the most bred people, the highest number of PhDs. I believe that's the same thing in UK. Globally, we are killing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But our country, despite all that, manpower, all those skill sets and all those things, everything is mostly offshore. You see what happened to the banks recently. Some
Yeah.
banks had really serious issues because a lot of their tech people had migrated to Canada, permanent residence, America, UK. We were saying in
Yes.
one of our
Yes.
interviews that if they take Nigeria out of the UK system, for example, the IT infrastructure and
Will
everything,
collapse.
I wanted to say
Yeah.
we suffer. Now, help me to answer this in the light of where are we as a nation, despite all those talents, despite all those gifts, in the global scheme of things, in these days of AI, and take it from there.
I think I will explain. I will respond in two sentences.
Cool.
Individually, we're great. We aspire individually. We always attain great heights in the society individually, but collectively we are nowhere. Yeah, collectively we are nowhere because
What is the way forward?
way forward is to start at least learning to work together. It's not even working together as such for now. It's learning to work together, learning to do things together, learning to actually get along. Learning to get along with one another would be a good start. If you put us all in a place, we are the one. If you compare us to any other race, you put 10 of us or 15 of us together. Okay, we're gonna achieve. This is what we need to do, or just come up with something. We are likely to be the one that will fight, to be the one that would argue, to be the one that would, because we're not used to just having a simple idea and putting all our personal differences aside and focusing on that idea. And it's not our fault. Again, when I say we've lost our core beliefs, this is what I mean by that. That with all this shift has really done damage to us to the point where we can divide and conquer, has done enough damage to us that we cannot come together anymore. That it requires a very strong glue to bring us together.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. I know I interrupted your thoughts on that. I know we have gone beyond the time that we plan to spend on this live show. I don't know if you have a couple of minutes more because definitely you have structured your calendar. Can we take one or two questions before we round off? Because
Absolutely.
this
Absolutely.
effort is also towards nation building. You are an IT professional. From
Yeah.
what you shared in the recorded interview that we have already posted on our channel, both
Yeah.
the O Deep Gaan, our Yoruba channel, and if you ask Jimmy channel, you touched on a number of places, and some of those everything that you mentioned is very germane. You are an IT professional. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
And then you have been there, seen all. Now, when you go to when you look at Nigeria still in the global scheme of things, I want to ask, okay, you said you have a background in finance, and from your
Yeah.
intro, I mean, from some of the conversation, you let me know that you are also an investor.
Yeah.
You are into mining, and that you travel to East Africa, um, like 3 or 4 times in a year, and
Yeah.
just for business and all of those things. Now, still on this issue of Nigeria, I want to ask you, because you said our people, I asked the question, they party a lot, but we don't
Yeah.
do things together. You say individually we are good, but collectively. So one of the things you said to me, I don't know whether, I mean, was the fact that our people do not coalesce, to actually do big business together. You want to expatiate on that?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at it's a very deep one. It's a deep one
Deep, go very deep,
because
very deep.
because if we have to look at we have to compare with successful organizations.
Mm.
Even if we look at the successful, I am in technology space, so and I've
Which
been
domain of tech are you?
I'm in data. I'm a data architect, but
Oh, wow.
again, I've done a lot of things in the past. I was a cloud architect in the past,
For
so I
real?
do help organization move
Wow.
from on-premise to the cloud, AWS and Microsoft Azure and things like that. So I've done it. I'm usually one of the ones that help with designing organization infrastructures and how then planning how it moves.
Okay.
What I see is that, as I said, individually we're great. We meet Nigerians all the time. We meet our peers that are great, doing great things, have great experience, and can um, do a lot of things, come up with great ideas, but we don't have the fortitude to stay with it and see it through because we are we are reward based. Our belief, our system is reward based and it's short term reward based. So if I need to explain that a bit further, I would say, imagine if as you are my Egmo, that you have a startup.
Why are you exposing me? You want to start? feel old. You are around 50 and you are telling, sorry, did I leak your own age too? And then you are
No.
saying more so that people can make me, do I look that old to you? I beg,
I
go.
know you're slightly older.
Okay,
Slightly.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Well, we are
So
family. Let's go.
yeah. So I would say if we use an example of starting a company, technology company, how many Nigerians would be able to see it through? Mistaking is going to take. Apple is a good example. It started in a garage. We don't have many organizations that we can actually have one or two people that will see it through from garage to then getting into a point where you can actually ask for investors and people invest
And you
in
go public with
equity.
an initial public order and get it
Yeah,
listed as a public company.
yeah, I had a startup at some point, way before this Lemfi, and I approached the company in Nigeria to actually raise funds. And from the start, this is a finance house, and they wanted something like 5% of whatever they raised for me as a cut. And obviously, I'm not using this money to just go on shopping spree. The organization needed it to. I said, look, if I'm losing 5%, then I'm already in trouble because how am I going to survive? You already took 5% out of what I say I need.
Maybe nothing goes for nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Whereas in the Western world, there's a good understanding that we need to put money in this, and in a year or 2 years time, then we will get a reward.
Are people, in short, they do not do big business together? We are not used to partnership. And because you mentioned people from other communities, how
Yes,
they can buy a whole street, lock it down, get into business.
absolutely.
That
Yeah.
takes me to the next question. You answer it together with this, and probably that should be our last question. There's something that you said that concerning JAPADA, that
Yes.
when I said you said some people will go back, that you are one of those people, that
Yes.
some people like you will go back and then they'll prepare the space, and that you don't see that change happening as a quick fix that can happen in this generation. It might take a set 1 or 2 generations, but some people need to go and lay the foundation. You want to use that to add to, I mean, part of the foundation will be investing in bringing our skills back and all those things. So on the overarching concept of JAPADA right now, I want you to take us home with, practicality of, from the angle you said that some of us need to go back, and that's what people like you will go do, even though you said you don't know whether you're going to eventually live in Nigeria or in West Africa or in some parts
East
of
Africa, yeah.
Africa. The important thing is that let's talk about Africa, the JAPADA thing, and how, because the question was from Nigeria in the global scheme of things, not to talk down on Nigeria, but to see what we need to do and what we should be doing that can reposition us and make us to be globally competitive. And
Of
then,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
take it away.
The great thing about Nigeria, we'll start with that. The great thing about Nigeria is the population. So, and the economic power cannot be ignored in Africa. So, whatever one is planning to do, you have to factor Nigeria into your plans. Otherwise, the story I was telling you earlier, I approached the company in Nigeria. They
Okay.
wanted a certain amount, a certain cut. Then I had a guy reached out to me here because the company was doing okay. I was just struggling financially because I floated everything with my own money. So a person contacted me, wanted to actually take the funding forward on this side. And one thing he did, he came back to me very quickly and he said, oh, a lot of investors are saying you're focusing on a very high risk environment, Nigeria. They wouldn't want to da. He said a lot of things. And I just responded with one sentence that, look, if you mean the most populous country in Africa, yes. And if you're saying you don't want to be part of investing in that, I completely understand. But that focus is not going to change. You want me to go to the smallest country in Africa because it's less risky? It's not going to happen. That you have to understand that there's high risk and high reward in this. If they're
Right.
not experienced enough to understand that and balance that out, then they're not really the right investors for me. And that was how I finished it. So as I said, the potential is there. Nigeria has a great thing going for it. The population. We have a lot of people that are connected using their phones And there's a lot of services you can provide to those people. When it comes to JAPADA, I don't want to go back to Nigeria when I'm retired, when I have very little to contribute, because I will have been frail, I'll be much frail, well, I'll be weaker, and I would just want to enjoy my retirement. I don't want to do that. Then you're not really contributing much. And you cannot be campaigning for change and progress and not be part of that change. So this is why I said I will go back and I will do my own bit. But whether I go back and stay in Nigeria, that's a different case, depending on situation of things.
What about
Even though
other Nigerians in diaspora? What's your advice concerning nation building?
nation building, as I think we all have to do it because we've got a lot of experience. I look at myself and I think with all this experience, it would be a waste for me to just continue to work here until I retire. It would be a complete waste, and I would definitely regret that. So what I want to do is at least, in some ways, pass the experience, whether by investing in technology, investing in younger people that have great ideas, and then running various businesses. I have a friend that actually has had hotel in Nigeria now for the past Ibadan for the past 3 or 4 years, and is back and forth. He's a technologist as well, and is back and forth. Whenever he's not here working, he's in Nigeria running his hotel.
Great. Finish your thoughts, sir.
Yeah, so basically, I feel like we definitely need to have that view of going back, because we cannot. I personally feel like when you get to a certain age in this country with the cold, you definitely want to be where your body would.
Awesome, awesome. I already said take it home, but finally, if we have this conversation, because we don't know how soon we'll get you back again. You're a very busy person and you travel a lot internationally. Thank you for doing this with us.
Thank you very much.
At the end, but one question. If we talk about the nation, we talk about investment, we talk about, our people in diaspora, but we don't talk about family, then this interview will not be complete.
Yes.
The issue of culture shock. Our children are neither here nor there. And we have African parents trying to raise their children with African mindset in a Western or European or whatever abroad, because we have Nigerians everywhere, Australia, Asia, and everything, Canadian. And these are children. Some of the parents think they are recalcitrant and they are being influenced in these days of social media and everything. Sometimes parents don't sympathize with these children being torn between two cultures.
Yes.
What's been your experience on this? And let's use that to drive it home. Finally,
I will
parenting and parenting in the abroad.
We have to adapt to environment wherever we find ourselves. And if we're giving birth to children in that environment, we need to understand the implication of that as well. That we're giving birth to children that will be, well, British with Nigerian influence.
It must be functional both ways, not dysfunctional here and fully functional.
Exactly.
There must be total end-to-end functionality.
You have to be. I have a friend that he's got grown boys, and the boys are already in age, they're in uni already, and they're now starting to date, bring home girlfriends. So he noticed that both boys, they're now bringing back non-Nigerian, non-African
Caucasians,
people Caucasians, And he asked them one time, boys, I noticed this is the case, and your mom is asked me that, have you asked the boys that what's the, and the boys they said to the dad, Dad, do you want us to go through what we see you go through every time with all the drama with our mom and the aunties?
Excuse me.
And I said, wow. So he said he couldn't go back to the wife and said, well, by the way, the boys this is the difference, the difference in culture. That they see what we do, how we go to parties, how we behave, and the boys do not want to be part of that because they're of different background. They see these things and they don't connect with it.
I don't
and we don't
appreciate
really understand, and we think they should be connecting, but why should they?
it.
So I think there was a disconnect there, and even the mom is completely unaware. But if the only person, I don't even think the husband is the best person to actually tell you about you. But if your
Mm.
son cannot be biased. You know, husband can have girlfriend that are nudging him in one direction or the other, but your son can never be biased. Your son will tell you the clear feedback that you need to
Up
have.
and play.
And the same thing with your as a father, your son will tell you or your daughter will tell you the feedback that you need to get as a father. So it's a shame that we find ourselves in this situation, but I think we need to do better as parents to understand that these
All right.
kids are not from, they're not born in Nigeria and they're not really growing up in Nigeria. So we can't raise them as
So
Nigerian.
we need to find a balance in
Yes.
parenting because they will definitely reflect and mirror the two societies where they have been raised.
They
We
only
have,
been raised in one society.
okay, okay,
They only have influence of the other
okay.
society
That's true.
and they
That's
go on holiday. They go on
that's
holiday and that's it.
that's true.
That's the hard part. But we feel like they're being raised into society, but they're
Oh,
not.
okay. I get you, especially in these days of globalization and the handset has made everything
Yeah, yeah.
together. What are your last words? Because I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything you'd like to just end with? Let me give you that room to, yeah,
Yeah, I
share.
think I've said it earlier that I think it's very important for us to really search and reflect on how we want to continue to develop as individual and start developing with our network. It's very, very important. It's the only way people grow and people become formidable. If we don't have that, we cannot grow as a community. We cannot grow as a people. Um, Even abroad, even in diaspora. I'm not talking about us going back home now to build anything, but even abroad, if you have one or two people, how many people do you actually offer to support and help? Not, it may not be financial. I mean, there are people that are always JAPAing, new in town, need this, need that. We need to start doing that to build a network, a stronger network, because the future, we need those networks to then build our own power. Because we are in a society where economic power and political power is vital. If we have none of that, then we have no leverage.
Wow. What a nice way to end it, Mr. Ademola Dayo, IT professional, British born Nigeria, raised, born in Britain, went back to Nigeria, and has been living in the UK for over 30 years, investor, and also a data information technology cloud architect. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of If You Ask Jimmy. And we really appreciate you on behalf of our viewers for doing this with us. You are on record as being the first person to be brought to this program for a live interview. You were also having that special, you're having that special place in the annals of our channel history. You're smiling, oh, bro. So you are of being the first individual to
Yeah,
actually do a recorded interview with us that is already going viral. We appreciate all the nuggets that you have dropped. You have dropped a lot of gold, and I know that you are loaded and you're going to give us more. If we ask you next time to, just come and share your thoughts with people, because I've been getting feedback from your previous interviews, will you oblige us, sir?
absolutely. I'm always happy to help. And as we said, the network is important. I know I'm based in the UK, but again, we can continue to make the transatlantic connection every now and again via internet. So yeah, I would love to be part of this. And yeah, it's my duty to see us growing and exchanging and sharing good content as opposed to the other content, the most popular content that we see flying around with millions of views that amount to nothing in terms of our growth.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So that's where we will wrap it up today on this edition of If You Ask Me. But before we round off, I have been getting help from the back end. I apologize to our viewers. Sometimes I look down from my camera and you know that definitely I'm doing some back end things here. This is our first live interview, and definitely it's a learning curve for us. I do not mean any disrespect to probably be multitasking. We have to communicate with the back end to make sure that we're actually live and we're actually, everything is going smoothly. So that's just the reason. Apologies for whatever is not professional, doesn't look professional. We are still learning and we are growing in this channel. Thank you very much. You can look into our channel for the other content that we have in different aspects, especially the pre-recorded interviews we had with Mr. Ade, we call him Ade, before. And also, I want to use this opportunity to appreciate my helpers from the back end who saw what I was doing and they say, look, we can help you, we can support you from the back end. And Odeku Multimedia Services, OMS, thank you so much, JK and the team, for helping us from the back end to make sure that our production is at least this production happens. Thank you very much. I'm sure that you will, if anybody needs the services of people who can handle end-to-end social media channels for them, OMS will put their, you can see their numbers on the screen. Definitely, they'll be more than happy to help you right from the ideation stage to the design, to the pre-production, to the front-end UI UX design, to also the production and the post-production editing, and also maintenance and support, and also where you have, what do you call them now, back-end services for people who can manage your social media channel or handle for you, that is online support. Thank you very much, OMS, and thank you everyone for joining. I know this is a long ending, but thank you for doing this. Mr. Ade,
Thank you
see you.
very much.
Thank you very much. Best regards. We are in the afternoon here in Texas. I'm in Dallas, Texas. I know it's well over like 9:25 over
9:25,
there.
yes.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you for doing this with me, bro.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
See you
All
again
right,
soon.
guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.